In 55 BC, a Roman general stood at the edge of his known world, staring across a wide, fast-flowing river. This was the Rhine, a natural fortress separating the Roman Republic from the Germanic tribes beyond. For the Romans, this river was a psychological barrier, a line they rarely dared to cross. The general's name was Julius Caesar, and he wasn't just planning to cross it, he was planning to tame it. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're re-uncovering one of the most astonishing engineering feats of the ancient world, Julius Caesar's Rhine Bridge. This wasn't just a bridge, it was a powerful statement of Roman might, ingenuity, and sheer audacity. So, what was the situation? Caesar had been campaigning in Gaul, modern-day France, for several years. He'd achieved incredible success, but he faced a persistent problem. Germanic tribes would frequently raid Gallic territory, crossing the Rhine to cause trouble, and then retreating back to the safety of their homeland. Sending Roman troops across in boats was slow, risky, and didn't project the kind of permanent power Caesar wanted to display. He needed something more, something that would strike fear and/or into the hearts of his enemies. He decided to build a bridge, not just any bridge, but a massive, sturdy timber structure, capable of supporting his entire army, tens of thousands of men, plus their heavy equipment and supply wagons. And here's the kicker. He announced he would do it in just 10 days. Now, let's pause and appreciate the scale of this challenge. The Rhine River at that location was estimated to be about 400 meters wide, or a quarter of a mile, and up to 9 meters deep. The current was incredibly strong. Building a bridge across a river like this today would be a major project. Doing it 2,000 years ago, with hand tools and raw timber, seems almost impossible. His own officers thought he was crazy, but Caesar was a master of both warfare and engineering. He documented the entire process in his own writings, the Gallic Wars, giving us a fascinating, step-by-step account of how it was done. The construction began with driving piles into the riverbed. These weren't single logs. They were massive timber beams, each about 1.5 feet thick, sharpened to a point at one end. To get them into the churning river, Roman engineers used a clever technique. They didn't drive them in vertically, which would have been impossible against the current. Instead, they drove them in at an angle, in pairs. Imagine two large beams, joined together at the top. A heavy pile driver, likely mounted on a raft or a pair of boats, would hammer these pairs into the riverbed. The downstream beam was angled against the current, and the upstream beam was angled with the current. This created a V-shape in the water, with the point facing upstream. The force of the river itself would push these angled piles deeper and more securely into the mud, making the structure stronger over time. These pile sets were placed about 40 feet apart, spanning the entire width of the river. It was a monumental effort. Thousands of Roman legionaries, who were not just soldiers, but also skilled builders, worked around the clock. They felled trees from the surrounding forests, shaped them into beams, and transported them to the riverbank. Once the angled piles were in place, a massive crossbeam, 2 feet thick, was laid on top of them, locking the pairs together. This formed the main support structure of the bridge. Then, smaller timbers were laid lengthwise, running from one set of piles to the next, creating the roadbed. Finally, this was covered with planks and fascines, bundles of sticks and earth to create a smooth, solid surface for the legions to march across. To protect the bridge from enemy attacks, like floating logs or fire rafts sent downriver, Caesar added another layer of defense. Upstream, a separate row of piles was driven in to act as a breakwater, a sort of wooden fence to deflect any debris. Downstream, similar structures were built to guard against attacks from that direction. Think about the logistics. It required an immense amount of manpower, a well-organized supply chain for timber, and incredible precision. Each part had to fit perfectly. It was a symphony of engineering, all directed by Caesar's singular vision, and incredibly, on the 10th day, the bridge was complete. The psychological impact must have been immense. The Germanic tribes, who had relied on the Rhine as their impenetrable shield, woke up one morning to see a Roman highway stretching across it. It was as if the Romans could bend nature itself to their will. Caesar then marched his army, estimated at around 40,000 soldiers, across the bridge. He spent 18 days on the other side. He didn't fight a major battle. He didn't need to. His goal was not conquest, but a show of force. He burned a few villages, demonstrated that no place was beyond the reach of Rome, and established that crossing the Rhine was a Roman privilege. He showed the tribes that their homeland was not a safe haven. He could come for them whenever he pleased. Message delivered. Having made his point, Caesar marched his army back across his magnificent bridge. And then he did something just as remarkable as building it. He had it dismantled. Why? Why tear down such an incredible structure? Because the bridge was never meant to be permanent. Its purpose was purely symbolic. It was a demonstration of power, a piece of military theatre. By taking it down, Caesar sent another message: I can build this whenever I want, and I can take it away just as easily. This river belongs to me. He left nothing behind for his enemies to use or study. Caesar was so proud of this achievement that he did it again the following year, building a second bridge, likely a little further upstream, in even less time. This time, he was responding to further unrest and reinforcing his dominance. Today, the exact location of Caesar's Rhine bridges is still debated by historians and archaeologists. The river has changed its course over 2 millennia, and no physical remains have been definitively identified. But the legacy of the bridge isn't in its physical timbers, it's in the story it tells. It's a story about Roman engineering, which was practical, innovative, and built on an epic scale. It's a story about the Roman legions, who were more than just fighters. They were builders, engineers, and the instruments of an empire's expansion. And most of all, it's a story about Julius Caesar himself. The bridge was a perfect reflection of his character, bold, ambitious, and a master of psychological warfare. He understood that sometimes the greatest weapon isn't a sword, but an idea, the idea that Rome was unstoppable. The construction of the Rhine Bridge, in just 10 days, remains one of the most brilliant examples of military engineering in history. It wasn't just a way to get from point A to point B. It was a bridge that crossed the boundary between the possible and the impossible, forever changing the way the world saw the power of Rome. The Rhine bridges were a statement, a tangible symbol of Roman reach and resolve. They declared that no natural barrier, not even a mighty river, could impede the legions. This feat of engineering resonated throughout Roman history. They declared that no natural barrier, not even a mighty river, could impede the legions. This feat of engineering resonated throughout Roman history. Future commanders, inspired by Caesar, would construct their own bridges, from Trajan's magnificent bridge over the Danube to the countless pontoon bridges that supported Roman expansion for centuries. The principles were the same: speed, efficiency, and overwhelming logistical superiority. This legacy extends even to the modern era. Military engineers today still study Caesar's methods. The concept of rapidly deploying infrastructure to project power across an obstacle is a cornerstone of modern military doctrine. Bailey bridges, pontoon systems, and combat engineering units all owe a conceptual debt to what Caesar accomplished on the Rhine. His work demonstrated that engineering wasn't just about building walls or aqueducts. It was a weapon of war, capable of altering the strategic landscape in a matter of days. The concept of rapidly deploying infrastructure to project power across an obstacle is a cornerstone of modern military doctrine. Bailey bridges, pontoon systems, and combat engineering units all owe a conceptual debt to what Caesar accomplished on the Rhine. His work demonstrated that engineering wasn't just about building walls or aqueducts. It was a weapon of war, capable of altering the strategic landscape in a matter of days. Politically, the impact was profound. The bridges demoralized the Germanic tribes, proving that they were not safe even in their own heartlands. It established the Rhine as a mental, as well as physical, frontier of the Roman world, a line that could be crossed at will. This show of force solidified Caesar's reputation in Rome as a commander of unparalleled genius and audacity, a man who could command not just armies, but nature itself. It was a crucial step in his ascent to ultimate power, showcasing the very qualities that would later allow him to cross another fateful river, the Rubicon. It established the Rhine as a mental, as well as physical, frontier of the Roman world, a line that could be crossed at will. This show of force solidified Caesar's reputation in Rome as a commander of unparalleled genius and audacity, a man who could command not just armies, but nature itself. It was a crucial step in his ascent to ultimate power, showcasing the very qualities that would later allow him to cross another fateful river, the Rubicon. Thanks for watching. If you found this piece of ancient engineering as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let us know in the comments what other incredible feats of engineering you'd like to see us cover next. See you in the next video.